joined by the Federal Justice Minister, David Lametti. Minister, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Now, there appears to be several reasons for this delay, but I'm wondering if in any way it signals a hesitation about extending MAID to include the mentally ill.
No, it's not a hesitation to including. It is more a recognition of the complexity of it, and the fact that I think more people, more experts, more practitioners, as well as Canadians generally, need to internalize the standards that are going to be there. This is incredibly complex. This isn't the case. Let me underline that. This isn't the case of somebody who is depressed or has suicidal ideations, going to a doctor and saying, I want MAID. It is, those people must and should reach out for help, because those kinds of conditions are eminently treatable, and as a society we need to put more work into that. This is the case of long-standing mental disorders, conditions of mental illness that are being treated by doctors, where a person after that period of time with their doctor doesn't want to continue, and we have to be empathetic to that situation and recognize that. So it is a very rare set of cases. We have a good experts report that is going to frame all of this, but some provinces, some experts, some universities, practitioners said they needed more time. We're giving them more time.
Giving them more time. And, I do want to talk a little bit about the criteria of this when it comes to mental disorders. But, you did say during the news conference today that you could have gone with the original deadline. And I appreciate you say some want more time. But if you could have gone with the original deadline, considering there is a demand for this, why delay it? Why not just go forward in 6 weeks' time?
Well, it is a matter, I think, of making sure that as many people as possible can be ready, that as many people as possible are comfortable with the standards, particularly practitioners who have to make the diagnoses and understand them. We had a pandemic, we had COVID, that slowed the process down for a number of provinces. There's a great deal of heightened rhetoric around this, a great deal of it very much misleading. And so we're combating all of that. We think this is the prudent way to move forward. We need people to understand what is happening. We need people to understand what's not happening. And a prudent step-by-step approach is really the best way, we think, for everybody involved to move forward.
Well, I want to pick up on the opposition that you're referencing there, because we did hear from, or at least see from, Conservative MP Michael Cooper, who went on social media today, described the inclusion of mental disorders as a dangerous expansion of MAID, and says it should just be scrapped altogether, this expansion of the definition of who can access it. How do you react to that?
Well, I think I obviously disagree with Mr. Cooper. I don't think, first of all, I think that this is an incremental expansion. It is not going to apply to that many cases. We're talking about the vast majority of MAID cases are still end of life, and a very small percentage of those cases are not end of life. And this is a small percentage of cases within that small percentage of cases. So we're not talking about that many people. It's very much incremental. And what I think we need to realize is that mental illness is an illness, and people who are suffering from mental disorders are suffering from mental disorders. And if they have tried all available treatments with their doctor, they, like any other Canadian, have a right to ask for MAID. It is something that we recognize as a moral imperative. It's something that the courts have recognized. The ability to ask for MAID has been recognized in a general way in the Carter decision. And Canadians with mental illness are like any other Canadian. If they are capable of making that decision and fall within the criteria, then we believe they should have access to it. Now, these are difficult decisions. These are heartbreaking decisions. I understand that. But this is about autonomous choice and about securing the ability for people to make those autonomous choices within a safe and secure system.
I'm wondering, Minister, how much of that evidence, though, is anecdotal versus actual statistical numbers? Because, you know, even before the law was passed in 2016, I think it's fair to say that for many, the idea of MAID would only be applied to the terminally ill. But now, as you know, the fears that you said yourself are being expressed that it might be available to any adult who just has suicidal thoughts. What would you say to that? Are there numbers to back up what you're saying, or is this just anecdotal?
Well, I think sadly, the anecdotes are coming from those critical of what we're doing. First of all, let me underline again that somebody with suicidal thoughts is not eligible for MAID according to the criteria. That is not the case. These are serious and long-standing mental disorders, and the expert committee took great pains to underline that. So I really need to emphasize that, because that's one of the pieces of misinformation that's being peddled by the opposition here. The statistical picture is getting better. In fact, part of Bill C-7, which were the 2021 reforms, was precisely to gather better data from the provinces, disaggregated data, who's seeking MAID, how many times it's being administered, and to whom, under what circumstances. That picture is already better since the 7th of January, and we're going to continue to build that picture as we move forward. And this will be particularly helpful in those non-end-of-life cases. Again, they're the minority of cases, but it is important to have a better picture. And this will help us as we move forward. We're basing the decision on evidence and not anecdote, and I think it is fair to say that we are pushing this forward prudently, at an appropriate pace, and I think for the benefit of Canadians.
Now, you introduced the bill today. Again, if passed, it would delay the deadline that you face. But, you know, the original deadline is still March 17th. Will you be able to get your bill passed before that?
Well, we think we can. We know we have the support of the NDP and the Bloc Québécois. The Conservative Party, when I appeared before them in committee, grilled me rather vigorously, asking me for an extension. I hope that they will now be true to their word and support this extension, because it is precisely what they were asking for at the end of 2022.
Minister David Lametti, thank you for this. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you.